When was your last I gotta get the heck out of here moment? When I first moved to where I'm living now, it's across the river from a college town city with a main street that is littered with restaurants and bars. So one night a couple friends and I went out and decided to bar hop. Nothing crazy, just wanted to check out the different places. Walked into one hole in the wall joint with only a handful of people in there. Everybody's head turned and looked at us like we were from another planet. Weird vibe immediately. Bartender approaches slowly, asking how we're doing and what he can get us. We order our round of drinks. Bartender very slowly says, "Is that all again?" Weird vibe, but whatever. Random guy, later found out to be the owner, comes and sits next to us and starts chatting us up. Where we're from, what we're doing in the area, if we're cool. Lots of weird conversation starters. At this point, we want out but our drinks haven't come back yet. So we get our drinks and try to keep to ourselves. Guy keeps asking if he can get us anything at all, off the menu. It's at this point I realize that the two women at the other end are doing coke off the bar. There's also now two large men standing against the wall right behind us, just grilling us. Not wanting to make a scene, we all shared a "let's get the frick outta here" look. Talked amongst ourselves for a minute, finished our drinks as fast as possible, paid and left. The owner was trying to talk to us the entire time we're paying and making our way to the door, trying to keep us there as the two large men slowly close in. We got the frick out and said nothing until we hit the other side of the street. The free Ike, what a shady place. Glad you guys made it out alright. My ex-best friend convinced me to go to a concert with her. I told her I couldn't because I had a long drive the next morning and didn't want to waste gas or go to bed too late, and she said it was fine. She would drive and would get me home right after the concert. Went to the concert. It was fine. I was ready to go home, but she told me she wanted to go to an after party with the band because her crush would be there. I agreed because she really wanted to get with this guy. The chances of it happening seemed high, and I wanted her to be happy. Turns out the after party was at a decent hotel. Underage kids were straight up walking in with handles of alcohol and it was really obvious what was going on. The receptionist was eyeing everyone but nobody gave a frick. My friend and I got to the room and we were the only girls there. Around 40 drunk college guys and 2 girls both under 110 pounds. I'd never experienced being looked at like a juicy steak until that moment. I told her we had to go but she was hellbent on staying with her crush. I couldn't convince her, so I called my mom, the most awkward phone conversation of my life, and had her pick me up. Turns out the receptionist called the cops soon after I left and the party got broken up. I think some people got charged. So I called my mom, the most awkward phone conversation of my life, and had her pick me up. Thank you for the reminder to reiterate to my son, often, that if he's ever in some crap, he can call me and I can pick him up. A bit of backstory. A friend of mine borrowed a few hundreds from me. After a month, she asked me to meet her at the ATM. I thought she wanted to pay me there and then. Instead, she asked me to get inside of her car, which I did because it didn't seem shady at first and she was a close friend. During the ride, she said she wanted to bring me into a meeting and pay me there. I quickly surmised that it was probably MLM and the money borrowed was her capital and her act of paying me was for the audience and she was probably intending to recruit me. After the car stopped, I noped out and walked back 3 km to my uni. She tried to take you to her secondary location. Probably walking in Gastown, in Vancouver, BC. My mom and I were looking for her sister, missing, homeless. That old Tez life. Dude in his 30s or so walks up to us, dressed normally, sort of business casual, and we look up and are about to say hi, when he covers his eyes, and starts counting down really slowly and drawn out. Nope. Big ole nope. We backed up and he followed, eyes still covered. He got to 4 or 5 and my mom just grabbed my arm and yanked me away towards people. The downtown east side of Vancouver is something else. A really tight-knit family of homeless, mentally ill, possible drug-using men and women. Men are by choice, but not all. My nana used to live in a sort of hotel there, so I know it well, but that rattled me. A company I was working at got bought out by another company. They tried to make us sign agreements that we wouldn't work in the industry for 2 years after working for our company. So I'm not allowed to have a job in my field for 2 years if they lay me off. A bunch of us refused to sign it but nothing happened. Then people in management started getting moved around, and they put someone in charge of me who was really incompetent. When a big company buys a small company with a lot of name recognition, I can see the writing on the wall. I got another job and got the heck out of there. Such agreements are often unenforceable, especially for rank and file employees. Courts take a dim view of denying someone an income. I remember taking my first ever dab with people I didn't know, other than my one friend. I took the largest rip ever and felt like I was going to die. I started hyperventilating while the driver was driving super fast on the highway, probably 80-85 miles per hour. I made him pull over and let me out, where my friend and I made it to a side street and called our other friend to pick us up. The 3 friends who were in the car got into a huge car wreck the same night and the passenger was killed. I've never known people to dab in a car. That's the last place I'd ever take a giant booger. When I was 19, after graduating from my 2-year college, I was studying film. A professor that I, and many other students, looked up to a lot asked me to travel with him to Colombia to finish a documentary he was working on. Having traveled with him internationally in the past 4 class trips, I thought it would be a great opportunity. It was an all expense paid trip, so how could I not? So I traveled from NY to South America all by myself. And once I got there he gave me a tour of our Airbnb that went like this. So here's the office, kitchen, living room, bathroom, and bedroom. There's just one bed. I hope that's okay. I tried to keep cool and slept head to toe the first night. The next morning he sits me down to talk, and after his long intro he finally gets to the point. He asked that the next part stay between us and started with, so I've only ever been with my wife. That was the moment that all the hairs on my body stood up and I was like, I need to get the frick out of here. Update. So that evening I told him that while I was flattered I wasn't interested and thought it was wildly unfair for him to do that to me. I tried to be polite because I didn't know what to expect at that point. The last thing I wanted was for him to get violent. He backdaled the entire time, all of which I have an audio recording of, and I slept on an armchair in the living room the rest of the stay. Also for reference, my professor looked like a small Venezuelan Gandalf. Long white beard and all. I also had a family friend that lived in the city, so he picked me up my last night and took me to the airport. I'd never felt so safe in my life. My mom was content with living with bedbugs, a creepy 50-year-old man who might pay our bills as well as his kids and our cousins, all in a crappy mobile home that she hadn't been making payments on. It was in such bad shape, it wasn't even worth repossessing. I could never have any time to myself. I was always surrounded by bratty kids while constantly scratching at the bite marks the bugs left. I'd go to bed at night wearing sweats with socks on hot nights, just to try and keep the dang bugs off me. It didn't work. When I was around 14, I went to go live with my grandma. Of course, that made me a backstabber in the eyes of my mom, but she's not relevant in my life anymore. Kudos for you for getting out. The whole situation sounds horrific, but I'm baffled by how she or anyone can just ignore bedbugs. I just about crawled out of my skin the one time we got them. The itching is unbearable. Going through one now. Where I work, changes in management are fairly common, and we're in the middle of another one. Usually it's just a shuffle from one area to another. Adjust, move on. This time I don't think it's going to end well for me. Why is it different this time? When I realize the shelter I work for is pocketing donated money, keeping and using donations for themselves first, taking their food, taking housing products all for their own personal use. These people have well-paying jobs with plenty of overtime, benefits like health, life and dental. So yeah, frick that place and frick those people. Sucks for the ones that do have to stay there. If this is the US and they receive any public funding, for example, federal grants, COIG, each federal agency has an office of the Inspector General. Since it's a shelter, HUD-OIG is likely your best bet. Note, HUD is closed until the government reopens. Source, work for a non-profit. Somehow they seem to attract the worst people, like wolves to sheep. Panic attack at work. No apparent trigger, just a wave of I do not want to be here in this state. Panic attacks are so freaking rude. I had my first ever panic attack. So bad I had to go to the when I was with my twin brother at Starbucks. Twin bro and coffee are some of my favorite things. And yet I was just like, nope. Something terrible is happening. I can't breathe and my hands and feet don't work. I was at home working on a gate outside. I heard my neighbor shoot off some rounds, so I went to a spot I'd be able to overlook the pond and see if they were getting any of the geese. Then 3 shots came through the bushes right towards my house, roughly 100 feet or so away from me, not towards the pond. So I was like, okay, they're being an idiot, time to gtfo. I go back over to working on the gate, about 300-400 feet from where I was when I was being stupid and nosy, even though they should not have been shooting towards a house. Then a freaking bullet cracked as it went less than 5 feet past my head. Yeah, that's when I said frick this, hid behind a huge butt tree and called the cops and waited 45 minutes for them to show up, lol. Every couple of weeks on the subway, you'll see an empty or near empty car and think, nice, I'll get a seat. Then you step in and smell a homeless person's crap and think, I gotta get the heck out of here. Or you walk into said car and a guy is getting a blowjob in the corner and making eye contact with you. Good times. I have leukemia. I completed 5 months of chemo in October, but my white count has been low since then, so I am high risk for infection. My wife just gave birth a few weeks ago, but had severe preeclampsia and had to be put on blood pressure meds. I went to pick up dinner and on my way home figured I'd also grab her meds at the pharmacy real quick. Except a ton of people had the same thought, and I found myself like 20 people back in line. I was set to wait. Wife definitely needed her meds, until I hear coughing. I look up and a 2-year-old kid is hacking everywhere. That is no bueno for me. Yep. Had to nope the heck out of that line and send my mother-in-law to the pharmacy for wife's meds. TLDR, I'm a 35-year-old, tattooed bearded man afraid of small children. No shame, children are gross. My brother was diagnosed as a sociopath and went around wearing it like a badge of pride, saying crap like I could really freaking kill you guys and not feel a smidge of guilt about it. To clarify, he was diagnosed with, and I apologize for not knowing which, either narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial tendencies or antisocial personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. All that mattered to him though was tagged the terms sociopath and psychopath came up when he googled this. He gets a new diagnosis just about every 3 to 6 months these days. Growing up he had and generalized anxiety disorder, then he joined the Marines and came out diagnosed with PTSD from boot camp, yet made fun of non-Marines with PTSD, then it was bipolar disorder, then this, and now he's schizophrenic. We have no doctor given reason to suspect this, but my mom wonders if he might have some kind of brain tumor or something fricking with him. He sounds like an Ariambiribidus type. When I was younger my dad, who is a widower, worked weekends to keep up with bills and things, so I had to go to my grandma's house who lives about 3 miles away for the weekend. When I was over there I would be in constant misery because my grandma's daughter, my aunt, still lives there with her and was in a relationship with a former homeless man she picked up off the street. The thing is that the man is always in butthole and thinks he can get away with crap and always tormented me. I didn't do anything about it when I was younger, but when I turned about 12 I had enough of it and decided to walk home. I called my dad on our landline and told him everything, and that's when I started staying home over weekends. My dad now has a steady income and can stay home weekends with me. I was a junior sailor in the US Navy celebrating Mardi Gras with my ship in Mobile. Ow. We see other guys from our ship on a balcony inviting us up. We go inside and I see a more senior enlisted guy with a glass pipe. An older man is holding a lighter to some clear and glass-like crystal in the bowl. I started grabbing everyone I recognized and told them to get the heck out. On my way out the door I saw the ship's master-at-arms walking in. Just in time. I was at work and thought I needed to fart. Turns out it was diarrhea and made up an excuse to leave for the rest of the day. I have also accidentally crapped my pants at work. I'd had some weird coughing fit and diarrhea. I didn't make up an excuse. I told my manager I just crapped my pants and I'm going freaking home. He just said feel better. I lost my passport in a train station in Moscow. I made the mistake of going and asking someone official if they had one handed in. The person made a call and the next minute I was escorted by several armed cops to a dodgy looking police station behind the train station. They were all drinking and smoking cigarettes and began asking me questions. Are you American? No. Where is your visa? In my passport, butthole. That's why I'm here. Who knows I'm here, etc. They began demanding money from me, at which point I told them to get fricked, which they did not appreciate. After that, one of them told me to follow him through a door further into the station. I took the opportunity to do a 180, bolted back through the door, jumped on the nearest train and made my way to my country's embassy, where I was given an emergency passport and flown out the next day. Last week, I was visiting Los Angeles with my 22-year-old daughter. I had to fill the tank of the rental car. I googled the cheapest gas and waited in line. There was a scummy homeless man yelling, clearly mentally ill. When we got to the pump was broken. You know, when you fill 10 cents of gas and it stops. It took a full minute to get $1 of gas when the homeless man came up to us. He was yelling, "Now this is a nice car." I grabbed the pump from my daughter and said, "Hit the road," and we drove off. Funny thing is, my daughter wasn't scared because she was listening to what the man was yelling about. Apparently, the homeless man was being harassed by another driver. The other driver told him not to touch his car. The car was a piece of crap and the homeless man was making fun of him. "Oh, don't touch this car. Your car is a piece of crap." That's when he came to our car. "Now this is a nice car. I won't touch this one. But your S is a piece of crap, you butthole." So it ended up being pretty funny. I panicked for nothing. You just described every gas station in LA. My friend and I were out drinking and she met the hottest guy we've ever seen. I was dating someone else, so I was just there for fun moral support. He ends up inviting us over. I wasn't about to let her go alone, so I tag along and plan on sleeping on his couch. His roommate is with him and I make it very clear from the get-go I am not interested. We get in their car and he starts driving. We're in the car for a while, and neither of us recognize where we are. Once arriving at their apartment, I realize that their couch is covered in random crap, and there is just enough space for me to sit. They have a cat, and his litter box is just chilling in the living room, and hasn't been cleaned in God knows how long. My feet were hurting from wearing heels and the guy tried to help his roommate out by trying to sell me on using his spa stuff to soak my feet and maybe get a massage. I held firm on the couch. It's 3 AM and there's nowhere for me to sleep, so I checked to see how far we are from home. We're freaking 40 minutes from home, and an Uber costs $50. I'm not paying for this. This was her adventure, so I decide to wait until the morning. The roommate invites me to watch a movie. I take the bed and he takes the floor. He puts on Transformers to watch. Needless to say, I fell asleep quickly. I wake up early and hound my roommate to wake up so we can hightail it out of there. The drinking also gave me liquor shoots and the guy's bathroom was A, disgusting, and B, right next to his room. So he would have heard my stomach exploding into the toilet. Our Uber is over 10 minutes away, and I'm gonna poop my pants. I considered paying the Uber driver to stop at a Walgreens because I didn't think I'd make it all the way home. Thankfully, he arrived soon and I made it home without dying. And she definitely paid for the Uber home. Holy crap, you're a good friend. I told this once before, but when I was about 8 years old, I was in the car with my parents. They were arguing, which they did a lot, but being trapped in that metal box with both of them screaming back and forth became too much. We stopped at a red light and I unbuckled my seatbelt and got out of the car and started running. My mom, who was in the passenger seat, ran out after me, and after he pulled over the car my dad did as well. They caught up to me and their attitudes completely changed. They promised they wouldn't fight again, a promise they broke time and time again until their divorce, but they never did it again in the car. Good for little you. I will never understand how two grown adults fail to understand the impact of their shittiness to each other in relation to their children. It's gut-wrenching for a child. It's even worse when they had it done to them as a kid and fail to understand the chain impact. High five, 8-year-old you. When I was 19 and cute, I lived in a rural area on a dead-end street. I was raking by the road and a white van went down the street slowly and left the road. Then they came back on the road and parked about 1,000 feet down. in front of someone's house. No one got out and about 5 minutes later the van went down the road slowly again. There were no other people anywhere, just me, a young woman. I went in and locked the door and saw the van a few more times. I didn't leave my house for the rest of the day. Some say he's still looking for the house with the broken dishwasher. During Hurricane Harvey, my story is not nearly as harrowing as some, but I live on a lake and right in front of a channel that directs water to the lake when it rains a lot. It's normally empty, but of course this was Harvey, so it just kept rising and rising. I woke up one morning to find someone had placed flood markers along the channel. That told me somebody in the know was expecting it to fill up and overflow, thus flooding my house. I freaked the frick out, piled whatever I could on top of counters, wrapped the bottom of my furniture in plastic, likely wouldn't have helped much, took pictures for insurance, and booked it to my mom's house with all our animals and children in tow. As we left our neighborhood, an entire horde of pickup trucks pulling boats was heading the same direction we had just left. My house did not flood, thank God, but a good chunk of my neighborhood and the surrounding areas did. I didn't even have it that bad, and those were honest to God the most stressful few days of my life so far. Felt so awful for everyone who wasn't as lucky. Our dog was diagnosed with cancer last August, and within a month he had gotten to the point of us having to put him down. It's the first time I've ever made that decision, and the fact that everything happened so quickly made things so much harder than I ever imagined it would be. We knew it was aggressive, but he took a steep dive in the last 12 hours. Even with the knowledge that he was sick, it happened very quickly. We got home from the vet just kind of numb. I sat on the couch where just a few hours before he was sighting happily, surrounded by his collar, food bowl, toys, tons of pictures of him, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I could not be in that room anymore. I told my wife that I needed to take a walk and went out to the backfield where he loved to roll, almost having a panic attack the whole way, passing his favorite spots on the property. I finally got to the field and just collapsed to the ground sobbing. I probably spent 45 minutes laying on the ground, crying for most of it. Eventually I went back to the house, and everything still sucked, but the release of emotions at least made it bearable. I still miss the crap out of him. He was a fantastic dog, and he should have been around for much longer. That wasn't the end he deserved. I was at a baseball card convention when news of the incel van attack in Toronto broke. It was a slow afternoon, so a group of us dealers gathered around the lobby's TV to watch, and the other guys started defending him. If he had been an Islamoid terrorist, the fricking media would have kept that crap under wraps. And what do you think's gonna happen when women only go for jerks? Then the egghead in our group argued that those with less access to fricking suffer just as much as those with low incomes, and that we should re-educate women to find those men with low frick market value attractive. I did not want to find out what he meant by re-educate, so I packed up my cards and left. Any mention of re-education never makes me feel like I should learn more. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.